we're going down the plug hole here with these people. I mean, she's not up to the job. It's as simple as that. I don't look at my country now and think it's in good hands with any of them. You've got idiots. I mean, I can say what I want on my social media, and I do insult some people, but they've usually started on me first. But I'm not the foreign minister like Lammy. I'm not Angela Rayner, no brainer.
Breaking right now, it is going to become even harder to be honest about a cult, a religious cult which is potentially causing huge damage to the UK and the Western world, with Angela Rayner, can you believe this, the Deputy Prime Minister, to set rules regarding Islam and free speech. The worst thing is that former Conservative, but let's be honest, he's a complete lefty, Dominic Grieve, Ramona-in-Chief, tipped to head up an advisory council which critics warn will effectively create a blasphemy law, which effectively will allow criticism of Sharia law to see someone like me thrown in jail. It's utterly terrifying. Christopher Hitchens warned against this type of dystopian policy, but here we are in 2025, and it looks like it's going to happen. Huge reaction, as you can imagine, from sound people on this. Matt Goodwin posted on X, I am struggling to think of anything worse than the Labour Party under Angela Rayner creating a new council to define Islamophobia and putting Dominic Grieve in charge of it. Burmese Spofford wrote, blasphemy laws, WTF, Angela Rayner is to create a council on Islamophobia. The death of free speech entirely. But what's so shocking is only the Daily Telegraph is really focused on this story today. It's been ignored through the rest of the media, just like, by the way, they ignore the inconvenient truth that Axel Rudakabana was an Islamist extremist. So I feel we're entering into terrifying times. Let me bring my superstar panel in, June Slater and Lilani Dowding. June, utterly terrifying. I mean, look, number one, there should be no blasphemy laws in a free society. We are completely free citizens and we should be able to criticize religion in whatever way we choose. But when this is a religion, specifically, June, that doesn't believe you shouldn't be in public showing your face, doesn't believe you should be in public working or driving a car, and actually wants to throw me off the top of a building, how terrifying is it that Labour is giving in to these truly sectarian forces?
Well, it's not just terrifying. It's an outward and visible sign of what they're doing, which is saving the voter base. They've relied on the Islamic vote for so long. And as we've seen with this last election, they've kind of set up on their own. There's some Islamists now, Blackburn is an MP that's an Islamist, is not belonging to any party. They're losing ground there. So, and her constituency, I believe, is, a pretty high proportion of people there. What I don't understand is how they can't see the long-term effects that this will have. They're not going to save the voting base by doing this. They'll just get used while they get strong enough to take more and more political ground. And giving them this is just what they want. I wonder sometimes how people like Sikhs and Hindus feel, who haven't really caused this country any problems. I've never gone around wondering if there's going to be a terror attack from a Sikh or a Hindu. They seem to have lived in this country quite peaceably. So what does it say about everybody else's religion? They're stopping women from praying in the street in their heads. And yet this, as you say, it's ineffective. In effect, it's a kind of blasphemy law. So what do? Just keep off the topic and don't discuss it at all when it's got some very, very unsavory thought process to it. Does that mean, we've got people coming to this country for sanctuary because they're gay in the Middle East. That's a lot of the reasons that people come away from the Middle East, because they want to leave that regime. What are we creating here for those people? I really think this is a dark place that Labour are taking this to. But Whatever it is, it's a piece of paper and it can be ripped up if the right government get in. I think the busiest thing that reform will have, it will be repeal, repeal,
Yes.
repeal.
Well,
If they
indeed.
can repeal
But
them.
indeed, although we might all be in jail by that point. Although I guess the point is if we all continue to speak out, then they can't do that. I mean, I'm going to find it absolutely fascinating seeing how the Labour Party tries to deal with someone like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was, of course, an activist who came from a Muslim background, understood exactly what they did, and as a result turned on them, and they've been trying to kill her ever since. Or, yeah, I mean, look, I could list a whole load of people like that. But Leilani, I think one of the things that is most disturbing about this is that it stops the truth now even coming out when it's connected to really serious crimes. So, of course, Axel Rudikabana, I've called him an Islamist extremist. So has Douglas Murray. So have a lot of very sound people. Suella Braverman, who also, by the way, has warned of the fact that the UK could be taken over by an Islamist government within 20 years. Brave thing to do. But look at this school stabbing yesterday, Leilani, in Sheffield. Now, we don't know, and we probably never will know exactly why a young white boy 15 years old was stabbed to death by a 15-year-old pupil. But Leilani, I can tell you something has changed in our society. And it's not just here, it's throughout the West. Very, very disturbing breaking news this afternoon. 10 people believed to be dead in Sweden after a heavily armed shooter stalked the corridors with students fleeing for their lives. Now, that's Sweden, Leilani. Of course, it's too early before anyone tries to jump on the bandwagon and get me locked up. I don't know anything about this shooter yet in Sweden. But I do know, Leilani, that Sweden used to be a very, very safe, harmonious country. And because of Muslim immigration, it no longer is. And now 10 people have just been shot at a school.
And you know what, Dan? In the Netherlands, a little Dutch girl, 11 years old, was stabbed by a Syrian man within the last couple of days too. So, this is happening and they really want to clamp down on us talking about it. I read I think it's a diversity and inclusion statement of that school, All Saints School in Sheffield, which said they will designate prayer times to Muslim teachers and students. And that's a Catholic school because they have to be diverse and inclusive. So we might not be allowed to talk about this. Now, to me, it is an absolute attack on the freedom of speech. I don't think it should happen over any religion. Look, I've got my cross on. I went to a Catholic school. If I want to talk about the horrific crimes that the Catholic priests have done in the past that we've heard about with children, then I should be able to do that. There should be no law that stops that. And there are Muslims and former Muslims that actually want to talk about some of the bad sides of Islam or some of the extremist countries, or say the Islamic State in Iran. And they've said that this is not a good idea. I don't know why Labour think that they should start cracking down on speech when it comes to Islam. I've seen people burning British flags and no one's got the guy that burnt the Quran got arrested immediately and he's in court already. It's like, I don't know why he did it, because, he's more than likely to get shot or have a target put on his head, like the guy over in Scandinavia that just got shot, who'd previously allegedly for the guy that burnt a Quran. So look, I just think it's a very, very dangerous, slippery slope. And you wouldn't see the police acting that quickly if somebody burnt a Bible, would you? So, it's dangerous.
But first, don't eat breakfast until you learn about caloric bypass. Now, your breakfast is setting you up for the entire day to either gain weight or lose it. The term breakfast literally means to break your fast. Get it? That you started the night before. So about 4 hours after you eat dinner, your body switches from the nutrients we get from food to the stored glycogen we have in our bodies. Once glycogen stores are depleted, typically after 8 to 12 hours of fasting, the body shifts to burning fat for energy. Fatty acids are released from fat stores where they are converted into ketone bodies through a process called ketogenesis. Then, when you eat breakfast in the morning, the body starts the cycle again. This is where the caloric bypass comes into play. Dr. Gundry, a heart surgeon in California, learned that if you break your nightly fast with something called MCTs, or medium chain triglycerides, you can actually keep burning fat throughout the day and use it for energy. But there are specific types of food that contain these MCTs. Using this breakfast breakthrough, he was able to lose 70 pounds just through diet. And what's more, he did it in his 60s. So you can find out all about it and his exact method by going to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. That's thehealthyfat.com/outspoken, or click on the link in the description box below. It is important to remember that everyone's body processes fat differently, and it all depends on your unique metabolic type, which is why in the video he released for my special viewers, he talks all about it. It really is quite fascinating, and it might change the way you think about health. So go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show. Angela Rayner.
Yeah.
Is the woman in charge of this, Angela Rayner?
Well, fair play to lass. She's done all right for herself, hasn't she? But come on. I mean, this is like the front bench. I'm going to use the phrase, you can't get staff, because this is the best. This is the creme de la creme. And you look back at previous politicians and the caliber that we had. And we're just going down the plug hole here with these people. I mean, she's not up to the job. It's as simple as that. I don't look at my country now and think it's in good hands with any of them. You've got idiots. I mean, I can say what I want on my social media, and I do insult some people, but they've usually started on me first. But I'm not the foreign minister like Lammy. I'm not Angela Rayner, no brainer. It's abysmal. In fact, it's toe-cringingly embarrassing. And this law that she's supposed to be overseeing, it's all down to interpretation. It's just like when we were locked down with the COVID wardens. It's all down to interpretation, and some of them are overzealous. And that will happen with this. It's all down to the interpretation of what is Islamophobic. I mean, even the guy, what's he called? Trevor, can never remember his name. Him that invented the word, turned around 4 years later and said, there's no such thing. Trevor Phillips. He now says there's no such things. Now he's gone back on that. It's not an irrational fear. It's a logical explanation for why you're afraid. Because I'm worried that I'll sit in a country, by the time I'm at my weakest in my life, which will be in my 80s, that I'll be in a country that doesn't approve of someone like me. And yet all I've done is I've never been in trouble with the police. I've paid my taxes. I've run my home, run my businesses. I've lived a rational life. And yet I will not be suitable when I'm at my weakest, when I'm elderly. And I just think, but again, if we move them out, if we bulldoze this party out with the right people, I couldn't give a monkeys if there's any division about Tommy Robinson in the Reform Party. All I'm looking at is the big picture. There's so many issues. We need at least to give Reform a go. They're further forward than anybody else. They're setting up branches. It's the only way we can go. We have to see if Nigel and his team let us down or move forward, because everything can be repealed. We don't have to put up with anything. And I know from what I've talked, when I've talked to people, they will take on the civil service. They will take on the civil service. There won't be people working at Border Force that are letting people in. There won't be people working at Border Force that don't speak English. That isn't going to happen. That's going to be tidied up. And they can tidy it up because they will be using IT specialists that this government haven't even heard of. So this can happen. That once they tidy the civil service up and the media, we're rocking and rolling. The rest will fall into place.
And by the way, can I just remind everyone of this image of Angela Rayner during the election campaign? Now, Angela Rayner, she's one of these lefties who would say, I'm the real feminist. But there she was, surrounded by Muslim men and not another woman there, or certainly not another Asian woman there. And that was okay with Angela Rayner because she needed their votes. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.